Hello folks and welcome. So this is part 1 of 2, and what I'm going to explain in this video here, if you're trying to learn SSH server with public key. Generally we generate private and public keys under the other systems and then pass off the public key to the server. I have one of these set up where this has a private key and this public key is already set up. I'm going to talk about troubleshooting in this video. So the lay of the land is this way if you are trying to learn a little bit about SSH server and using public key. Okay, generally XFCE desktops are good for this kind of process, and of course firewalls are optional, especially if you got firewalls already on your routers. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is this message right here. Access denied, permission denied, public key. And that can drive you nuts. There's lots of things that cause that error. In my next video, I'll show you how to completely set this up and what's the benefit of having an SSH server. Even in your house, when you have multiple computers, you can transfer your backups into here. The backups from the individual computers is what I'm referring to. I'll show you an example of this on this laptop right now. Filming in 1080, subscription logos in the corner, 500 plus videos. On new subscribers, I do recommend that you read my posts and the About section. I'll do the first one graphically. Alright, so basically what I'm going to do is I'll transfer files into my junk one from another system. Alright, I got my head turned because I'm kind of on a low budget here, and my real estate on my computer is rather tight. Alright, so you can just see that that's a tar backup. It came out of nowhere. Well, all I did was use SFTP to drag that file into that machine. Which, when you set up SSH, that's part of the protocol. Secure transfer protocol can be done with your file managers, SFTP. And you can use SSH also in terminal to run commands. Alright, so what happens if that didn't succeed and I get this message? Well, let's look at a couple of problems that could occur when you do this. So the first thing that we want to check is the security keys. Are they in your home folder? Control H. You do have an SSH folder, I'm assuming, in the your home directory for whatever user. Our user for today is made up name Sam. SSH. You have an authorized keys file. Do you have the key in here? Did you copy the complete key? Or did you do one of these kind of things where you were trying to highlight things and you went like that and did a copy and paste? Well, maybe you missed a couple of digits. Alright, so this is what that key looks like. You can put as many keys in these files as you want. Authorized _ keys. Now that name becomes important when I talk about the configuration file, because this is a mistake that people make constantly. They name this file authorized space keys. They forget the underscore. There's an underscore in here. The second thing is, what's the permissions on this file and what is the permissions of that folder or directory? Well, the folder should be 700 and the file should be 600. If you don't know how to perform those commands, I'll give you my history buffer on this machine. So there's a couple of entries in my history buffer that actually perform that. So line number 34 is a chmod 700. Change the permissions of what? ~/ is my home folder .ssh. chmod 600 is what? That would be the authorized _ keys file. Alright, so I'm just going to perform a 34 and a 35. And how do I do that? If you've never done this with a history file, is you put the exclamation point there. And providing that's a valid command that's worked for you before. Okay, I'm putting an exclamation point 34 and it blows in the command chmod space 700 space tilde / .ssh. So what the 700 does is it removes the others from not being able to do things in your SSH folder or .ssh. So the other one is 600, which is, I'll use, where is it at? 35. Explanation point 35. That puts a chmod 600. And again, they're close in numbers, but more importantly, you check your files this way if you want to do it graphically, using Thunar if you're using an XFCE desktop. Okay, you can see the permissions has others. No, none. Sam is our made-up name user. He has read-write on that folder. The same thing goes with the file called authorized keys. Permissions are set to read-write and none for the others. You want that for security reasons. I know that you're just doing this on your home network maybe, but you want that anyways to make it work and behave properly. All right, you do know where your configuration file is. If not, it's in your file system under the etc. folder. I'll go full screen this time. So the etc. directory or folder has lots of stuff in it. Type in SSH. And what I mean by the configuration file is that. Since we're using keys, now keep in mind if I wasn't using a public key, I wouldn't be editing this. I don't need to. It will work right out of the box. But if you are wanting to use keys, the first step would be to go to that .ssh folder and look at the authorized _keys file for one, to make sure you got your security key in there, and then go take a look at this file. If you don't mind, I will use Kate instead of a standard text editor that came with this distribution because it has a nice highlighting feature. I like to do this while filming. So all of us should know what these things do. They generally are comments, or they turn on and off things on configuration files. Now port 22 is off as far as the command is. This will be active. So did you change the port number? That also becomes effective if you're talking about firewalls. The Guff firewall, it has to have port 22 turned on. Again, I'll talk about that kind of stuff in the next video on how to set up stuff. But generally, it's going to use port 22 no matter what, even though with that commented out. That number 12 will be processed on my SSHD config, not to be confused with the other SSH config. As I scroll down, you can probably see that I am not using root logins. You can see that it's commented out. So permit root login is no. And that's a good security measure to have. So now we're going to get into public or pub key authentication. You want keys because you made a public and private key and you transferred the public key to the server. So private key stays on the machines, public keys get sent here. But they also need to be in a certain file. So you now have pub key authentication is yes, but where is it getting the folder from? Well, if this is on like this, the machine will give you this error. Let me minimize all that. That'll give you this error because it doesn't know where to look for that thing. So one of the things that you got to make sure is, did you remove the remark? And is it in the same location, or did you decide to put it in a different file or folder? Well, if you kept the same name, authorized _keys, not space keys, because that's another mistake people make, is they name that file authorized space keys, or maybe this one, because they're trying to change names. You can also put the full path in here. That would be /home/ your username /.ssh/ something else. Authorized _keys. That's why I kind of emphasized the name of that file. The one behind it here, it's not necessary. You can just leave it. It's not going to process it. It is looking for this one, because that's where my security key is. That command is processed. Don't forget to remove that symbol. I use another one in here too called password authentication no. Generally this says yes on your default. Is it prompting you for passwords even though you want to use keys? Well, then remove that. Take the symbol off and you change the word yes to a no. All right, and that's pretty much all you need on a simple home network. Don't forget the save button. I'm not going to save anything. I'm going to do a discard. All right, anytime you change this file, did you restart SSH? If not, perform this command. I'll pull it out of my history buffer. Forgot to make that larger for you. Now, line 50 has that command. Sudo systemctl restart SSH. I'm just going to perform F50. Explanation point 50, enter. Yeah, still got to put in the password. And I'm using this on a demo system with a short password, but certainly I would use a decent password with a real SSH server. But anyways, I just restarted SSH. That's the command for that. That way you don't have to, quote, reboot or log out. Because anytime you make changes to your SSH config, you should do that. So part of this troubleshooting process is to figure out why we're getting this message. And you're trying to do what kind of authentication? We're not using the standard settings, we're using public key authentication. You took the time and you went onto these computers and they are all running OpenSSH client. So you generated the keys, and here is a good website that you may want to check out, is ssh.com, and look under the field for SSH keys. Okay, here are some examples of it. Choosing either RSA, DSA, ECDSA, and the standard ED25519s. These are the commands for that. Generally, if you just run an SSH keygen, it'll generate this one right here also. Slightly different, but it will still do it. But you can use this formula here if you like the different keys. Do you really need that on your home network? No. But if you want to use public keys to generate this one here, that ED25519s, that's perfectly acceptable. And why would you want to use a public key on your local network instead of just the automatic accept keys and then put in passwords? Maybe you're running script files to do automatic rsync backups, for instance. You don't want the hindrance of having the script stop and ask you for a password, do you? Yeah, it makes the script kind of complex and cumbersome to work with when you do that. Public keys doesn't require, if you set it up properly, an entry for you to put in passwords. That way you can run automatic script files that way. That's the sole reason a lot of people use public key on their home network. And possibly, of course, using real SSH servers on the internet. All right, so anyways, SSHD config, you make changes. Again, restart services. You can do it right out of terminal. And if you skipped over this video, then of course just log out and log back in. Or do a restart of the computer. So the second thing is the key itself. We took the hassle of trying to generate a key. And we placed that key into this file here. But what happens is if you don't copy these things properly? Maybe you were on you received the file, but you only copied this part of it. Well, that makes the key incomplete. What happens if you delete the key or move this file? Let me give you an example of another one that some people do on accident. They go, hey, I've got this known host and host old, So I'm going to separate this and create a folder and call this one keys, thinking this is perfectly innocent to do. Okay, what do you think is going to happen now? I'm going to get this error on the other machine. What I'm going to do now, since you saw me actually transfer this earlier, Control H, where did I do this? You saw me do this earlier. I'm going to try to log back into this machine just using terminal. And I'm going to make you a screenshot of that. And then we're going to put the key back. And then I'm going to let you see what I see on my screen on the laptop. Okay. So just give me a second here. I just have very limited real estate on my desk. And I'm going to try to log into this system that I was filming from. Now I've already got the error that is in my face right now. So I need to open up the screenshot tool on that system and make a screenshot. And we're going to do a window screenshot. And I will just save it on the desktop. All right. Then I'm going to open up. No, I can't open that up because I don't have connection to this. But now I'm going to move the folder back. And I'm going to take this file and cut it and move it back into this directory here because that's where it was originally. Now I can reconnect to this machine. And I'll put the screenshot directly on the desktop. All right, I'm not capable of doing that prior. So what I just did, if you didn't notice, I made a folder called keys. Then I moved this over to here, which disconnected me. And why did it disconnect me? Because I severed the path to verification. This is what I see on the other machine. And you can see that screenshot was made a minute ago from the other system. Okay, so it says permission denied from Tom on that NMO12. That would be this machine here. So what I did was I decided to be funny by moving the public key into a different folder, which severed my connection because the fact that the machine can't verify that anymore. Permission denied public key is also the same message that I showed when I started this video. So don't help yourself by creating folders and moving this file into here, because if you do, you will have to fix it in your configuration file also. One more reminder of why this broke is the fact that I moved something. From this configuration file here, it has a path. I'll just use the regular text editor that came with this system, which is XED. Down over here, let me find the entry where it is authorized. I'll make it bigger for you. The authorized key file is located in the primary folder and authorized keys. Now, since I changed that in here to keys and moved that file back here, I cut the path off. The machine cannot verify anymore the single public key or multiple keys because you moved the file. You moved it into a folder. Don't do that. If you do, you need to fix this in here. If you have no problem with that, then add the extra folder in this statement. In this case, you would do something like this. If the file has been moved in there. This could probably be okay then. But I didn't do that, did I? No. There is where it's currently looking for that. So what I did was, since I moved it into a folder thinking it's innocent enough to do, I severed the path of public key authentication. I'm not going to save anything. So I'm going to do close without saving. So that's not a good idea. If you've already want to keep your configuration file normal, as one would say. Okay, so now I just have that back online. And since I moved the file, let's I'll just use this one as my guinea pig. I'm just going to copy it. It's entirely possible you have multiple keys in here. This is very typical, actually, but I'm just making copies. So those will be 3 keys. Just pretend that has different usernames and etc. Okay, or even if it's an RSA key would be that, or DSA or ECDSA key. They would also be listed in here if you had them. But keep in mind, if you have 3 entries, you got 3 keys you just cut off when you did that. That would be this one, possibly this one, or this one if you moved that file. You just cut everybody off. Try to think about the relationship in this file versus what you're trying to accomplish. So we'll just do a save here. Let me re-verify it and mess up anything. And anytime you make a change to this folder, at least try something, anything, to verify things. I'll use this folder here. So I will copy something, anything. Yeah, just a piece of music, I don't know. And we're going with, what's the folder, junk 2? Okay. See, I have the authority to paste it anywhere. And you can see that. I can paste these anywhere in here. I can even go directly into the music folder if I wanted to. So, but this one already has the same album. Let me grab, let's see, a picture. I know it doesn't belong in there. But I'm going to copy a picture directly into this music folder on on Sam's machine. That's right. We're doing Sam here today. I got Sam's machine, and here's the music folder, and I'm going to paste that photo in there because I have the full capability of doing this. So at least I tested the communication out. So you can see the benefits of possibly if you're exploring SSH Server, you're learning SSH Server, or you want to use it for practical reasons. Maybe you want to take your backup copies and save them here if you've got enough storage. Why did I pick an XFCE desktop for this? They're just lean and mean. And generally, I don't need all the fluff on this machine, even though it's fully usable. But this guy can actually store backups from these systems right in here, along with other files. So you can think of that as your network backup machine, network shares. We can accomplish the thing using Samba also, but Samba is not as powerful, I think, as SSH is, because I can run commands on this machine from here, in addition to copying these things. Now, firewalls, of course, are another problem, and I have a firewall on my simple router, but GovW firewall is being used on this system, so let's take a look at that little problem, where you normally don't get this message, though. You just have no connection. When you get permission denied, you at least know you have a connection. So we can try a couple of other troubleshooting steps if you like. So in this case, if I was trying to find this machine here, this NIM 012, I can ping it. By IP address or typing in local in a lot of cases. There's a couple of Linux distros that I couldn't do this with, but generally Linux Mint works just fine. I want you to notice that it has an IP address when I do this. So I could have pinged it by that address, but in either case, the machine responded. That means it's just physically connected. It doesn't mean it has any services running. It just means that I have a connection, in case it's not in the same room that you're in. The other thing to be aware of when you're trying to connect to machines is if you decided to edit your host's file. Now, some people do this and some people do not. In the etc. folder is another important file. Way down at the bottom, but I'm just going to type in HO and get close enough to it. It's right here. Somebody asked me this question the other day. This does not match the IP address of my machine. It's not supposed to. Okay, so the 127 is generally found on all systems that have Internet Protocol. So it'll say, I have a t-shirt actually that has a joke on it that says there's no place like home, which has 127.0.1 on it. It's localhost, in other words. The 1.1 will have usually the name of your computer here. So no, it doesn't have your IP address on it. So this machine here is LM221. I can also ping it. You can do that also this way. Just look at your address right here. The Sam is our user, LM221 is the name of your computer. The IP address of this machine is 229 ending 192.168.1.229. That's what's assigned to one of the network cards. The other thing you could have is also wireless. You can see that I have wireless here, but it's disconnected. So you would possibly have two IP addresses. It's theoretically possible. But your host file, you can also plug in IP addresses with the name of the computer to do address resolution on some systems. Again, it's all your choice, but that's what's in the host file. All right, so another one would be is hostname-i. The front part of this is the IP address for this machine. This is version 6. IP version 6 are longer numbers. All I did was ping that with the standard IP version 4 number right here. All right, we got that established. All right, so at 27 minutes, I'm going to only talk about the firewall briefly. If you want a complete detail on this firewall, okay, this is UFW or GovW. Go onto my YouTube site. Okay, I have well over 500 videos, as you can see, 534 currently. Click that right there. Type in firewall. If you're using a regular browser, this I discuss 98% of that firewall called GovW. Okay, but more importantly, when your firewalls are on, you need to make sure that if you're running SSH, that port 22 is open unless you're using different port numbers. IP version 4, IP version 6. Okay. Do you think I can connect if this firewall is on now using SSH? No. You'll have no connection. It's blocking it, denying it incoming. You need that port to be open, because you're running services. SSH by default is port 22. You can see that by me pointing at that. It adds two rules, IP version 4, IP version 6. I showed you that when I did the host name. All right, closing. 29 minutes. If you want to know how to set this up completely from scratch, watch my next video regarding the same subject matter, SSH server setup. Thank you for watching.